Hello viewers, today we're going to be cleaning, servicing, and repairing a Honeywell Turbo Fan. This is the smallest of the turbo fans offered. These turbo fans have been on the market for a very long time. I believe they date back all the way to the 90s, and since then there have been what I would consider to be 4 different iterations sold from the 90s up until today. The first iteration used a different blade set, a C-frame shaded pole motor, and was actually turbo. It was a very high-speed, powerful fan. The second iteration used this same blade set as this one and a C-frame shaded pole motor that seemed to be considerably less powerful than the first. The third iteration, which is this one, uses the same blade set as the second one, seems to move the same amount of air to me, but uses a much higher efficiency PSC motor. And then the fourth iteration, which as far as I know it is still on the market as of this taping, uses a different blade set, which curiously is more similar to the first iteration, and also utilizes a higher efficiency PSC motor. I can't tell yet because I haven't done a teardown of the fourth iteration yet. I can't tell if it's the same PSC motor as what's in this one. It looks different from the outside. The current one appears to be covered in a piece of plastic, so I don't know if it's the same motor or not. But this video will be specifically for the third iteration. I'll grab the model number off the bottom in a second. But if you have any of these 4 fans, the process is going to be very similar. Sans a couple of screws on the motor being in a different spot or something like that. I think the first iteration may have a couple of Torx security bits on the back to remove the guard, which would require a different tool, which is annoying because a lot of people don't have those bits handy, as opposed to where a lot of people have a Phillips screwdriver somewhere, which is very interesting to see it switch to a more user serviceable design over time. But anyway, so that's why there's so many model numbers in the description, because those are all for the different iterations, and some of them were offered in white and black, and there was a different model number for that as well. But this particular one is the model number HT900D1. So if you have the the HT900D1, then you can follow this video to the T and get it to look and run like new. If you have one of the different iterations, I probably have a video of working on the other two, or I most certainly do. I'll have one working on the latest one soon. But this video should give you a pretty good idea of what you need to do. So, on a curiosity note, I picked this up because this is the first one that I've seen of the third iteration that appears to be very high hours. It's quite dusty inside, and I have suspicions that this has actually been cleaned before, because the amount of dust on the guard is not consistent with the amount of dust on the blades. And if you look around the outside here, it looks like somebody very poorly wiped it down, probably before it was donated to the thrift store. But this is pretty dusty, and it's definitely got quite a few hours on it. I mean, look at how much dust is on the blades in there. It's ridiculous. So it's pretty well caked with dust. Let's see if we get a good picture of that. We'll get a good picture once I get the thing apart. But I'm very curious to see how this runs, because the shaded pole models, both of the 2 previous iterations of this, did not seem to last particularly long before the bearings either lock up due to lack of lubrication or develop an annoying rattling sound. And the cheaper C-frame shaded pole motors are pretty notorious for doing that. Likely it's a combination of heat from being a shaded pole motor, those run very hot, paired with the combination of relatively cheap bearings to start with. So I was curious if the PSC motor versions, which in theory should run cooler and perhaps are a little bit better quality, would these bearings last any longer? Now granted, we don't know how many hours this really has, assumably quite a few. I believe these surfaced in the late 2010s, so I can't imagine this is more than 7 or 8 years old, but the bearings are pretty much locked up already, which is a little disappointing. Now again, the fan does have a lot of hours on it and it's well past a reasonable service point, but it is pretty much in a state of failure. Now, a lot of times the shaded pole ones, you can free them up and then they get all rattly afterwards. If this frees up again and does not rattle or make any abnormal noises, I'll be much happier with this motor. But as you can see, it's just barely turning. It's moving no air. And if we let it sit for an extended period of time, it might eventually start running, but there's just no point in doing that. So let's take this thing apart and get it cleaned up. Go through the motor, lubricate it, clean it out, and we should end up with a perfectly good working, like new fan. So we've got screws all around the outside here. There's quite a few that release the front guard, and one or all of these screws on that first iteration model I think are a stinking Torx security bit. But on this particular model you need a fairly small screwdriver, but they're all Phillips. I don't know why we need so many screws for this little fan. There's 6 of them on here. I really think that 3 would have been adequate. Okay, 5 of the 6 screws have come out. Six of 6. Okay, so now the front guard should just come right off. Yeah, this has definitely been cleaned at some point, albeit very poorly, and perhaps only the front guard, which is kind of odd. So, yeah, very stiff inside in the bearings. Alright, so this goes right into the dishwasher. That's how I clean this. Clean it by hand, but it's a pain in the neck. So to get the blade off, we have something I don't like. I don't know what this type of clip is called, but it's intended to be single use only. This unfortunately is very much a disposable product, which is a shame because it could have been designed with a couple other things like a bolt here instead of this thing. Make it real easy to take the blade off. You very, very gently open this up just a little bit. Bigger screwdriver. Come on. Well, this is the most pesky one of these I've ever dealt with. Here we go. I just kind of pull it up a little bit like that. And Hope that it starts to release. I don't feel any play in the bearings whatsoever, so that's a good sign. Usually if we get two of the tabs lifted up, it'll start to let go. Oh, this one just broke. That's often what happens. These fit on the shaft so stiff, it's really unlikely to become a problem. These things are a pain in the neck, and this is the intent of the manufacturers, is to make this unable to be serviced. You know, people take this out, oh, it broke, and they're going to throw it out. We probably don't really need that. The blade is just press fit. It should pull off like that. And now we can see the extent of how filthy this actually is. That's pretty outrageous. Wow. And that really hinders the airflow, having that dust built up on the leading edge of the blade like that. Significantly hinders the airflow. Even just doing that would substantially improve the amount of air this will move. The blades, you probably could put it in the dishwasher, but I don't like to, just because you never know if the heat warps the plastic or whatever, and then you got a problem. Alright, so good grief, look at this. Wow. Now this is definitely high hours, I'll give it that much. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to remove, so there's a capacitor on this one, which is down here, which you're not going to have on the two earlier versions which used the shaded pole motor. We'll take this capacitor off, and we're going to open up the switch box. And then the motor looks like, the two, at least the two screws on the side are holding it together, holding it in place. That might be it. This is actually the first time I'm working on this particular version, so parts of this are a learning process for me as we go along. Okay, so that releases the motor. Now, on the, oh, there goes that. That can go in the dishwasher. We're going to take the knob off. That can go in dishwasher. And then the switch just kind of pulls forward like this. And to disconnect this electrically, we're going to undo this one wire nut here, which pretty much just came right off with no effort. And then to remove the switch from the mains, we need something small. A paper's clip would do it. You should use a little piece of wire. The opening on this switch is pretty big. I think we can actually just use a pointed thing like this. And we're going to stick this in here to release the wire. Okay, now we can take the motor out. We'll come back to the motor in a little while. And now this whole apparatus, sand the blade, we'll wash the blade by hand. This whole thing, the wire, this little piece, the knob, and the grill, this all goes in the dishwasher. easiest way to clean it by far. The cord is waterproof, it's not going to be affected by, actually you know what, this is a fused one. Probably not waterproof, we'll just dry it out. I'm going to put this in like this. Put that stuff in there, put it in there, and that's that. Brand dish soap. Clod. Use TSP. Okay, we'll come back in a couple hours and we should have a fan that's clean as new. Okay, let's take a look at the motor here. This is got a lot of hair on the shaft, so we're going to try to take the hair off the shaft. Now a lot of times I'll turn the motor on and I'll clean it with sandpaper. I don't really want to do that in this case because it seems pretty clean already, and I don't want to take any material off the shaft because the blade has to press fit back on, and it feels pretty clean. I don't think that we have to. However, there is a slight notch here at the end, and that might be a problem because we're going to slide the bearing off of here, and I don't want to scrape the inside of the bearing surface. So I think what we'll do is we will turn it on and we will polish the shaft a little bit, but just at the very end. So I need to go grab a power cable now so we can turn on this motor. Here's a power cord. So we'll just set this up real quick here. We'll stick this in here, and we'll connect this to this. I should have done this step prior to removing the motor from the housing, but I didn't. Yeah. Turn this on, and we'll go ahead and plug this in just a minute. Got some sandpaper here. Okay, it's on, and just on the very edge of the shaft where that nick is, you're going to see in this these motors have very little torque to them, so it's going to take some time because we can't apply much pressure at all. Alright, let's see if that was enough. Yeah, I think that was enough. get any metal fragments off of there, and we should be good to go. If we meet any resistance, we'll stop and just do it again, you know, to go down further. Okay, so we have 2 Phillips screws here that should release the bearings. That's the wrong side driver. Wow, these are extremely tight. It's a little concerning because this is all just cheesy pot metal. Cracks and strips out easy. A lot of dust coming off with this screw. Okay. Don't need the power cord anymore, so we'll detach this for purposes of ease. So, let's take this into the garage, and we're going to just make sure this will come off okay. Yep, alright, perfect. So, we'll take this in the garage. We're going to clean out the, blow all the dust out of it. I don't want to do that in here. And just take note of what we got here in terms of washers. There is a washer in here. This out for cleaning. That's our front bearing. There's a little felt washer there that holds oil, and these plastic pieces don't move. And there's a washer in the back here as well. So it looks like there's very, very little wicking material in here, which is disappointing. And that's the source of our problem. So in here, in between the bearing, all around here, there is there's supposed to be a wicking material inside of here which holds oil, and it releases into the bearing with heat over time. And this has a very, very small amount of that material inside it, so this is going to require fairly frequent oilings because of that. And that's very disappointing to see, because that's a serious design flaw. It's a stupid problem to have, and it's not expensive to do that correctly. So that's disappointing to see, for sure. Yeah, I'm very disappointed by that. Alright, let's go into the garage. We'll clean this up, we'll polish up the shaft, and then we'll come back in here and re-lubricate everything. We're just going to give this a couple blasts of compressed air. This is dry dust. Dry, clean dust, so it'll come right off. Okay, that's it for that. Alright, let's clean out the bearings, a little bit of residual dust in there. This is dated 14/17. I don't know what that means. I would guess that 17 is the year, but I don't know. Either way, at oldest it's 2014 maybe, which puts it just about 10 years old. The motor itself, I mean, it's really not a bad looking motor in terms of build quality. I mean, there's better lighting in the studio, but yeah, it's very thin. It's like hair thin wire, and there's a couple places that are loose, which is not good. So maybe I'll spray some varnish. Like there's several spots that are loose, so you can see that I'll turn this around, you can see it better. If you look right here, that wire is totally loose, and over time the vibration can cause the insulation on the wires like that to actually fail, and then the motor burns out. So that's not good. That's disappointing to see that as well. But we'll spray some varnish in there to fix that. The other side looks generally okay. At the end of the day, these are not made with the best quality. They never have been, and they probably never will be. It's just unfortunate that we don't make stuff that lasts anymore. A lot of dried up, hardened oil in there. That's not good. Oh, duh, that makes it a little bit easier. Front bearing was considerably cleaner, so I guess the back was what was stiff. Alright, so we're going to polish the shaft now. It's not too bad, but you can see it's got some grooves on there, some darker spots, wear lines. We're going to clean all that off. We're going to use silicone polish. A very small amount does it. That's adequate. Much better. Perfectly clean now on both sides. I'm noticing that there's only one felt washer. I wonder if there was originally two, one on either side. I'll have to look back on the video. If it fell somewhere, I think chances are pretty slim of finding it, but I do have comparable spare things I could put on there instead. Well, we'll be able to tell as soon as we put it together. If it's something doesn't seem right, that could be the problem. Alright, I'm just going to spray a little bit of varnish inside this motor to fix those stray windings. Good enough for a cheesy little motor like this. Now let's go back inside and lubricate these bearings. Okay, so we're going to take some oil now. Actually, one more thing we're going to do first is clean these off. Okay, there's the little felt washer for the back. Now if you notice, this one here has a bunch of wear grooves on it. This is going to focus. Sometimes you can get away with just turning these around and then get more life out of them, or you can replace those. Sometimes a very worn washer like that can cause some rattling sounds. I don't know what this thing sounds like running because we never really saw it running. So, why do we only have one bearing? There must be another bearing in the garage still. There's no more bearings in the garage because the second bearing is already on there. Okay, we'll start with the back. Although to me it looks like those are identical. What we're going to do is we're going to put oil inside this area here, and unfortunately it's not going to absorb much because there's not much material in there to do the absorbing. See, it's just kind of sitting there on the surface. If this was built properly, the oil would soak right in, and it's just not. So this is not built properly. Well, I'm not going to add any more oil than that because it's not going to hold anyways. So there are definitely things about the design of this motor that are disappointing. The oil is certainly one of them, because that right there will definitely shorten the overall lifespan of the unit. So, got the back bearing in place here, and that tab there. I feel like that should not be like that, but maybe it doesn't matter. I'm going to put, let's see, we got to put this stuff back on. Put some oil on the shaft here. There ain't much in the wick. I guess that tab is not in the way. I thought it might hit the rotor, but it's not. Okay. Do the same thing with the front. I don't remember which orientation those were on before. It doesn't matter, it can be reversed. In fact, sometimes it's beneficial to reverse it. I'm going to try to get this felt washer with some oil as well, because that's probably the only thing in here that's actually going to hold some oil. And I wonder if that's what it was there for. And notice that the back bearing appears to be the one that locked up, and that did not have the little washer there. I just put these snug, like 2 or 3 fingers snug, that's it. There's no reason for it to be anywhere near as tight as it was. Alright, so we might find that the shaft is very stiff. I'm not finding that in this particular incident, but if we do find that, you can just take a screwdriver and tap on the shaft a little bit, move it around up and down, and that will free it right up. It'll align the bearings. Now I'm curious here, is our blade gonna stick or not now that we've done this cleaning and polishing? I think actually the blade will stay on. Alright, so let's go clean this blade off. Dishwasher's still running. Melamine foam is what I use to clean this. Get all the thick stuff off of this. Melamine foam is like a miracle product. It's unbelievable how well it works. Just use a small brush to get on the inside here. Okay, now we just gotta wait for the dishwasher to finish its cycle, and then we can put everything back together. Here it is out of the dishwasher. Looks like new. Alright, let's reassemble. It's wet a little bit still, but it'll dry within minutes of being turned on. The only potential problem that we could have is maybe any residual water inside the fuse area. I don't see any. The fuse is white, which is kind of odd. Well, if it doesn't work, maybe that's a problem. I don't know. I don't think that's an issue. Alright, technically fans are not dishwasher safe, so some things might go a bit awry. Alright, so in this case, the high side of the cord is the non-textured side. So the non-textured side, which is this one, should go into the switch like that, and then the blue wire from the motor goes to the textured side of the cord. Put this Moret back on, which was barely on when I opened the fan up. Put it on much better this time, better than the manufacturer did. And now the switch, we're going to have to check it to make sure I get it to line up with the numbers correctly. Switch, I believe, does it go like that or does it go like this? It's a 50-50. We'll stick it in like this and we'll check it. Very easy to check. So if you put the knob on, it seems to be lined up properly. Okay, and next, the motor. Capacitor was at the bottom before. It's still going to be at the bottom now. Motor's going to go like that. Okay, it all looks copacetic. Screw in the capacitor. screw on that cover for the switch. Okay, let's make sure that everything is working. It is in fact working. We seem to have lost the tilting apparatus. I wonder if that got damaged from the heat of the dishwasher or if it's wet. Well, hopefully it balances itself out once we get the front guard back on. So the blade, let's see how well it sticks on here without that stupid little nut thing. I don't think it's going to come off. I think it's fine like that. The weight of the front guard seems to balance it out, so it's not really an issue, at least not to me. I can live with it like that. To me, having it like that is worth saving the time on the guards. Now, I've washed other ones like this in the dishwasher many times and never had that happen. I guess these newer ones must be made with cheaper plastic. Let's just see if this stupid thing will go back on. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. This one, since it broke all the way around, I doubt will. Actually, it seems like it's gonna be okay. Alright, fine. Good. It's interested in staying on. Yeah, that seems fine. Those are hit or miss. Sometimes they go on, sometimes they don't. Okay. Let's see how it works now. Should work a lot better than it was before. Alright, so here's a clip of how it worked before, but as you can see it's just barely turning. It's moving nowhere. And here's a clip of how it works now. Much better. It's moving pretty good air now. All 3 speeds is working. Turn off that heat pump so I can see if there's any rattling. No, I don't hear any rattling. The bearings didn't seem to have any play when I was taking the motor apart, so I feel like it should be fine. Actually moves pretty good air. You can feel it most of the way across the room. The click sounds like it's coming back. I don't see why water would affect that, but maybe it does. Oh yeah, I can feel that clear across the room. It's not a bad little fan. But this definitely does not move anywhere near as much as the older ones did. Okay, so now this unit is looking and working like new. Just a couple of simple steps of maintenance and cleanup, and it should be good to go for quite a few more hours of service before it needs oil. It's been running for half an hour, maybe an hour now, and the tilt, it works, but it didn't get any better. So I guess if that's something that would bother you, maybe put it in the top rack instead of the bottom, less heat. But it's still functional. It's good enough for me, and it's running very nicely. Really, the only thing it doesn't hold is completely straight.